Ultralight backpacking gear can seem expensive, and sometimes it doesn't have to be. Though there is some truth in the saying, you get what you pay for, some of my favorite ultralight backpacking gear has been relatively low in cost while still remaining light in weight, and it's held up really well for many, many miles. So in this video, I'm going to share with all of you some of my favorite budget-friendly ultralight backpacking gear options and how you can keep your packs just a little bit lighter. Hey everyone, Matt here with Reach Your Summit, trail name Knowledge. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I'll start this video off by saying that all gear is going to be subjective, so the things that I'm going to go over in this video, they might work for you, they might not. We all have things that work best for us and that suit our needs or our hiking styles. For me personally, I love hiking all day, spending little time at camp, so my gear will often dictate that. But there are also other trips and hiking occasions where I might want to have something a little bit different from what I typically carry. Now this gear here that I'm going to go over, it's going to be reasonably priced, nice and light, and it's gear that I've used for hundreds, if not thousands of miles. And in some cases, it's often the gear that I choose to use out on the trail over that very expensive high price tag gear. Now, this isn't to say that the budget-friendly options are any better than the expensive gear, as I've been very happy with a lot of that gear over the years too. These are just simply some alternatives. So, let's kick things off with this pack. Now, making your own gear is certainly the pinnacle of cool. There's nothing more gratifying and rewarding than carrying something that you made for many, many miles out on the trail. And it is definitely a way that you can go about some budget-friendly gear. What's great about this is you can choose your own fabrics, you can choose your own features that you want, you can customize it as much as possible to suit your specific hiking style and your own preferences. You can choose your own colors. This is definitely a great way to go. And you can start off with that by going to a thrift store and finding a used sewing machine, taking some classes, practicing at home, just getting really comfortable with the machine before you start making your own gear, and start off small. That is exactly what I did. So I bought a Juki sewing machine. I'd been really intrigued with making my own gear, so I started that at the end of last year, beginning of this year. This is one of the packs that I made, but I didn't start off with this. One of the things that I started off with is just a simple beanie made out of Polytech Microgrid fleece. This weighs 1 ounce, very warm, wicks really well, dries fast, and this is one of my first MYOG projects. Depending on how many yards of the material you go with, or what material you go with, will be the deciding factor in what the cost will be. But this grid fleece beanie was around $16. And my own time with learning how to use the machine and getting comfortable with it. After making a couple of those and a fanny pack, found that I was feeling pretty comfortable, I started making a pack. And this one here is the culmination of making my first pack, which I have featured in a couple of other videos on this channel. So these are all fabrics that I personally chose. These are features that I chose to go with, things that would suit my hiking style. So this is a frameless, hip beltless pack, and I have over 500 miles with this pack now. Total weight is around 12.8 ounces. And it's around 35 to 40 liters internal, and then with the additional outer pockets, it adds about another 10 liters. And I've been really happy with this pack. Nice and light, and has everything I need, nothing that I don't, which is a motto that aligns with my principles and the type of hiker that I am. I like to keep things simple, minimal, balanced, while still having some safety and comfort out there. My next piece is my outer shell. This is a Frogg Toggs Ultralight rain jacket. This basically feels like a multi-purpose tarp on the outside with a soft tricot liner on the inside. I did mention this in one of my more recent videos on the channel, the Enlightened equipment this video. And I do have my gripes with this jacket, but for $20, this is tough to beat. This weighs around 5 to 6 ounces. This is men's medium. For frame of reference, I am 5'10" and 160 pounds. I have a medium Mountain Hardwear Air Mesh fleece hoodie on and a medium Old Navy Go Dry Cool t-shirt underneath that right now. And with both of those on, this is very, very loose. No matter how much you have on underneath this, it's still very baggy. And that's one of my gripes, just how baggy and obnoxiously oversized it is. Doesn't really breathe too well. There's no features to it aside from being able to adjust the hood. But I can get a nice good cinch with the hood at least. Durability also is not its strong suit. I haven't had any major gear failures with this jacket. It may rip here or there, but for $20, this is really tough to beat. It does do a great job at keeping me dry out on the trail. If you go with this jacket and you get the full suit with the pants, in my experience, always seem to fail right along the seam. It's not the most flattering, so I generally try to go with just buying the jacket. My next piece of clothing is a buff. These are going to weigh around 1 ounce. You can find them anywhere in between, typically like $15 and $30, and they have hundreds of uses. I can wear this around my neck and protect my neck from the sun. I can wear this as a balaclava in the cold. I can wear this as a beanie at night at camp if I'm feeling a little bit chilly. Use this to tie a tourniquet if I need to. I've even used one of these to filter coffee. So nice and light, highly versatile. I've been really happy with my buff headwear over the years. Now my next 3 pieces of clothing, they're going to be from Old Navy, but the important thing is while maybe you're looking for your sewing machine at the thrift store, look for clothing as well. Thrift stores can be great to find clothing at a low price. So I'll kick things off with the shorts. These are the Old Navy Explorer 5-inch inseam hiking shorts. These dry very fast. I've been out in heavy downpours with these and I've been really happy with them. They breathe really well. These are going to be very similar to like the Patagonia baggies or even the Palante shorts that I have on here. On my scale, these weigh about 4.5 ounces. These are a men's medium and I got them on sale for around $13. For a shirt, this is another one of the shirts that I have on right now. This is the Old Navy Go Dry Cool t-shirt. This is a polyester shirt. Breathes really well, dries fast. The one drawback to it that I've found is it can pill a little easy with pack straps rubbing on it, but it's not a deal breaker for me. Been really happy with these shirts. This is also a men's medium, weighs about 5 ounces. And this too also cost me about $12 to $13 on sale. Last piece is a Microgrid fleece. This I actually featured in one of my videos at the beginning of this year, but this isn't the first time I've used the Old Navy fleeces out on the trail. I've been using them for many years. In fact, one of my favorites was back in 2016, 2017. Similar Microgrid material. It had a nice half zip with a hood. This one does not have a hood, but it does have a quarter zip, and it also has thumb holes. This I got for around $24, and it weighs 10 ounces. So it's definitely a little bit heavier than some other options out there, like this air mesh that I have on, or Polartec Alpha Direct. This will be a little bit more in line with, say, your Patagonia R1 or Melanzana fleece, but it works really well. I wear this in colder months just because I typically run warm in general. So wearing something like this during summer and late spring, early fall might be a little bit of overkill for me. This does breathe pretty well. It dries fast if it does get wet, and it'll keep me nice and warm. And this is 92% polyester and 8% spandex. Now this last piece of clothing that I'm going to go over is one of my favorite jackets. And I'm looking at putting together a video going over some puffy jackets that I've been using over the years. So check back for that comparison video. This is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex jacket. This one is with a full zip and a hood. I also have a pullover version with a half zip and a hood and kangaroo pocket. This jacket has zippered hand pockets on each side, a nice hood adjustment system to really cinch it down around my head. And this is their ultralight version. So this uses 7 denier fabric on the outside and the inside, synthetic insulation inside of the jacket. So this will work well in damp or humid or wet environments. It will retain its loft a little bit better than down will, and it'll dry a little bit faster. This is a medium. I think on my scale it weighs around 7.5 or 8 ounces, and you can get these around $200. You can also customize it with the fabrics, the colors, whether or not you want a hood. And this is one of my favorite insulated pieces that I've used over the years. As I mentioned, I run really warm, so this is definitely overkill for a good portion of the year for me, unless I'm expecting conditions to be really cold or if I'm on a through hike and I'm going to anticipate some colder temperatures. And I have this jacket. I also have the Torrid pants, and I have Torrid shorts, which were an April Fool's joke a year or two ago that came to fruition with Enlightened equipment. So I had to buy a pair of those. I mainly wear this jacket when I'm stopping for a snack break. Use this around camp. Sometimes I'll even use this to sleep in. And since I have this jacket here and the Frogg Toggs, I'll just show you how easy it is to still put the Frogg Toggs over this Torrid jacket. You can see, still have tons of room. So with this pack that I shared a little bit earlier, this material is going to be water resistant but not waterproof. So another item that I've been really happy with over the years, and a way that I like to waterproof my pack, or items inside of my pack anyway, is a Nylafume pack liner. This is basically just a plastic trash bag. I get mine from Garage Grown Gear, weighs about 1 ounce, and this is what I line my pack with all of the time. For many years I've been doing this, and this is what I will use to keep my quilt dry, keep my jacket dry, anything that I want to remain dry inside of my pack. In most cases, these will last a full through hike, and when the time comes to replace it, it's going to be pretty low in cost. I think these cost around $2.50 each, or you can buy a box of plastic trash bags at the grocery store and use that. So for shelter, a tarp is definitely going to be a nice budget-friendly, lightweight option that you can go with, but it's not for everyone, so I do have another shelter option here. But I personally love using tarps. I've been using them for many years now. If you go back to my channel, you'll see some videos of different tarp setups and different tarps that I've used. So this tarp is made out of Ultra TNT, something that is going to have similar characteristics to the often more expensive Dyneema composite fabric. Back when I bought this tarp, it was $230 for 9 foot by 9 foot, and it weighed around 10 ounces. I've since modified it and trimmed it down to about a 6 foot by 9 foot, and it weighs about 5.5 ounces now. Still, if I were to go with that $230 tarp and got it in the same dimensions in Dyneema composite fabric, it would probably cost around $400 to $450, and it might weigh around like 6 ounces or so. This material does not absorb water. It just sheds really nicely, just like Dyneema will. Pretty durable, very easy to repair. A lower cost alternative is going to be something made out of Sil-Poly, which is actually what this other shelter is made out of that I'm about to show you. If you went with a Sil-Poly tarp, you can get down into $60 to $100 depending on what dimensions you go with. Sil-Poly also does not absorb water for the most part. In my experience, it has absorbed it just a little bit, but the material won't stretch out as much as other materials like Sil nylon if it were to get wet. So you're not going to have a lot of sag. It does take a little bit longer to dry than something like this or Dyneema composite fabric. And your Sil-Poly tarps are probably going to weigh just as much as this will, but another great option to consider if you're looking to go with a tarp and looking for something reasonable in price. So my Sil-Poly shelter option that I have here, this is the 6 Moon Designs Lunar Solo. I personally only hike with one trekking pole. Most of the time it just sits outside of my pack. I will use it for water crossings. I will use it if I'm feeling really tired at the end of a long day. And I like to use it to set up my tent if I'm using a tent, or it gives me a little bit of structure with my tarp that I might be using. But this is a great option. Total cost for the Lunar Solo, I think, is around $250 or $260 now. This one weighs about 24 ounces. Very simple single wall shelter. I won't get into great detail with this tent either. I do have a couple of videos up on the channel going over the 6 Moon Designs Lunar Solo, and I also have a comparison video on the channel going over this tent along with a couple of Dyneema composite fabric options made by Z-Packs that I've been really happy with over the years. But this tent here will be about half the cost of one of those Z-Packs tents. I find this tent to be very spacious, works really well in wind and heavy rain, very simple to set up. If I were to go with a budget-friendly tent, this would definitely be one of the options that I would personally consider, and I still continue to use this to this day. 2 budget-friendly ground cloths that I've been using for many nights over the years has been Tyvek. So I'll use this with my tarp, or I'll use this with a tent like my floorless Meadow Physics abode. Around $20 and about 4 ounces. What's great about this is it resists water too, so water will just roll right off. It's a bit easier to clean at camp in the morning and easy to replace once it wears out. These can be really loud and crinkly when you first get them, so I like to throw mine in the washing machine a couple of times just with water to soften it up, and then I'll let it air dry, and it's nice and quiet now and a lot softer. The other option is Polycro, and this is another material I use if I'm looking to go even lighter in weight. This will weigh around 1 ounce and cost about $11 or $12. So you can get window insulation plastic at most big retail stores or hardware store. The drawback to this is it is a little less durable than Tyvek, though I haven't had any major issues with this, just because I am very careful and selective with my campsite setup each night. One pain to this is that it does attract dew and water a little bit easier than Tyvek will, and it's a little bit more of a pain to clean. But I've been really happy with this, used with my tarp, and I've also used this with the Meadow Physics abode as well. This is my sleeping pad. This is definitely not for everyone, so I do have another sleeping pad here, but this is the Gossamer Gear 1/8 inch Thinlight pad. Weighs 2 ounces. I find it to work really well for my hiking style. I find it to be pretty comfortable, but you do need to be very, very selective with where you're setting up your camp. I'm not going to just set this up anywhere, because if I do, I might not get as good of a sleep as I would get with an air inflated pad. A pad like that might excel a bit better in really rocky, root-filled terrain. So I'm definitely using my natural surroundings with this to provide me with a little bit more comfort. What's nice about this is it won't fail on me, and it costs around $28 to $32 depending on the type of pad that you go with. They do make a foldable version too, but this is the roll version. I can use this as structure for my backpack because this is frameless and doesn't have any structure. So I do use this as a little bit of padding. I can use it as a wind block if I'm using a stove. I can use this as a sit pad. I can use this to just lay down and take a nap. I can also use this in conjunction with an air inflated pad if I wanted to slightly boost the R value and also protect my air inflated pad from possible punctures. So the other pad I have here, this is the Thermarest Zlite. This is also a closed cell foam pad. This one will cost just a little bit more at around $50 to $60 depending on the length that you go with. So I can also sit this alongside the back panel inside of my pack for extra comfort. You can cut this down to a smaller size if you want. I believe this weighs around 10 ounces. And this is going to be a lot thicker than the 1/8 inch pad that I'm using. So I will have a little bit more comfort with this. It still won't fail on me, though I do need to still be a little selective with where I'm setting up camp. There is a little bit more room for error with this just because of the slight extra thickness to it, but you will feel things a little bit underneath this too compared to using an air inflated pad. And then lastly, for shelter, some ultralight tent stakes I've been really happy with. These are just some titanium shepherd hook stakes. These only weigh about 2 grams each, and I have 6 of them here, so they're going to weigh just under ½ an ounce for all of them. Total cost was around $14. These work really well, especially in like really hard packed dirt where it might be difficult to get other stakes in. But also because of how thin they are, they don't have the best holding power compared to other stakes out there. So I'll use these around the perimeter of my tent or my tarp. And then I'll still use Z-Pac's carbon fiber nail peg stake for the ridge line or the apex of my tent or my tarp, just because this has a bit more holding power than these will, so it's less likely to rip right out of the ground. One other item I always have with me is a bug net. So this weighs around 1 ounce, and I'll use this while I'm hiking during the day if it's super buggy, just to keep a little bit of my sanity. But I've also worn this while I'm eating if it's very buggy. And I can also use this as part of my shelter system at night. So if I'm using a tarp and there's just a few bugs that are a minor annoyance, I can wear this over my head and have protection from the bugs with this and with my quilt wrapped around me. It costs around $12. Now I have some electronics, starting with my battery pack. This is a great low-cost, lightweight option. The brand is INIU, INIU. I've been really happy with their 10,000 milliamp hour battery pack. That one I think costs around $24 and it weighed about 5.1 or 5.2 ounces. So it is very lightweight, very similar in weight to a lot of the Nitecore battery packs, but about half the cost. Having a slightly larger battery pack can be nice depending on the type of hike or length of trip. So if I'm not using that one, then I'll use something like this. This is the 20,000 milliamp hour battery pack by INIU. I got it on sale for around $35 and the total weight is 11 ounces. It has a bunch of different ports for really fast charging. It also recharges fast when you're plugging it into a wall to charge this back up. And this keeps all of my devices going out on the trail. My personal favorite light for out on the trail, for night hiking, for around camp is the RovyVon Aurora A5X flashlight. This is very bright. It does also have a red light, so I cannot be blinding anybody at night at camp and offending anybody. I can look at my maps at night. Bright enough for night hiking, bright enough for camp chores. I have a video on the channel going over this flashlight, so I'll share that in the link in the video description below, along with the other links to videos, so you can check that out whenever you'd like. But if I don't want to use this as a flashlight or a lantern around camp, I can also clip this right to the brim of my hat and use it as if it were a headlamp. This weighs about ½ an ounce and costs around $35, and one of my favorite pieces of gear out on the trail. If I am going with a headlamp, I've been really happy with some of the Nitecore headlamps over the years. I also have a video going over this. This is the INIU 20 Classic. Before that, for many years, I had also been using the Nitecore INIU 25. We'll call that the Classic as well. There have been updated versions since then, and those personally weren't my favorites. But the INIU 25 Classic was. This is just a very simple headlamp. Has the red light, has multiple settings, lasts a long time, rechargeable just like the flashlight. I modified this with some shock cord for a headband. This weighs around 1 ounce, and the total cost for this headlamp is $24. For my cook kit, it depends on what my goals and objectives are. Sometimes I may just cold soak, so I'll go with a peanut butter jar or a Talenti gelato jar. The benefit with these is that you can consume all of it before you use it as a cold soaking jar. Pretty low in cost depending on what option you go with. This Talenti jar weighs about 1 ounce. Plenty big enough for soaking a full meal for myself for dinner. Very easy to clean and a great option for if you're looking to go stoveless and you don't want to just be eating bars all of the time. If I am going with a cook system and a stove, this is the BRS 3000T. This is a titanium stove. $16, weighs 0.9 ounces, I believe, and I've had this stove for about 8 years now. No issues with it. It does have its trade-offs with performance, so it doesn't work as well in wind as other stoves, but it works well for me. I can use that sleeping pad that I showed you. I can use a rock or a tree or something as a wind block if I need it. I could even use my pack. This boils water for my coffee or tea in the morning and to rehydrate any meal that I might have for dinner. But that's all that I'm using it for, so it works well for me. I've been very, very happy with this stove, and I look forward to using it a lot more. Along with the BRS, I also carry a mini Bic lighter. I'll have a cleaning cloth of some sort, and then my fuel canister. And then my cook pot itself, it's just a Toaks titanium 650 milliliter pot. I had used the 550 milliliter, which weighed a little bit less, but I find the 650 to work just a little bit better. It's nice having just a little bit of extra room for liquid if I need it, and it fits my cook set nicely without any trouble. And the total weight for the Toaks titanium cook pot is around 2.4 ounces with the lid. Total cost is around $28. So my cook set, I'm looking at around like 3 to 3.5 ounces and under $50. Whether I'm using a cold soak jar or a stove system, I'll always carry a bamboo spoon. This is a spoon that I've been using for many years now. I love bamboo because it's antimicrobial. It won't hold on to any types of scents with foods that I might be eating or cooking. Don't have to worry about it burning my mouth. Really easy to clean. This is really nice and light at around 0.4 ounces. I picked this up at a small novelty shop right off of the New England Trail, and it costs about $2. You can get bamboo spoons at a really low cost, and they will work just as well as titanium, but they have a little bit more in the terms of benefits, at least in my opinion. A little bit more sustainable, And you can get them with a long handle too, so it's not as cumbersome to eat your food with. Been really happy with my bamboo spoons and going to continue using that. For water, over the years, I've been using smart water bottles, life water bottles. This is definitely going to be the lowest cost option. Just your standard grocery store water bottle. And I have certainly got over 1,000 miles with some of these bottles, but that's something that I've been kind of deviating away from over the last few years and looking at going with something a little more sustainable, something that I can reuse, but still something that is pretty light in weight. So I have two options here. The first one is Platypus soft 1 liter bottle. Weighs a little less than a smart water bottle at 0.7 ounces, but it will cost a little bit more. These cost around $15 compared to $1.50 to $3 depending on the bottle you go with. But reusable, nice and light, compact, fits nicely in the bottle pockets, and this will roll up when I'm not using it. And this is also compatible with my water filter, which I'll share in just a moment. So very similar to your traditional smart water bottle. The other bottle that I've been really happy with that I've been using is the CNOC Vesica. This is also a 1 liter bottle. Has a little bit more structure to it. It will then also weigh a little bit more. So this weighs, I believe, around 2.4 ounces total. Total cost is $17. This is going to be reusable as well. This will have a bit more of a similar shape to the smart water bottle. I can also collapse this down, and it too will be compatible with my water filters. Now this water filter, I wouldn't say that I've been happy with it over the years, but for the sake of being a budget-friendly gear video, this is definitely one that is going to be budget-friendly and nice and light, and that is the Sawyer Mini. So this will weigh about 2 ounces and cost around $20. This is what I've used for many years, but I've since used other water filters. I continue to use other water filters than this. This does still work pretty well. It's just not the greatest compared to some other options out there. Mainly, I'm using the original Sawyer Squeeze, which weighs 3 ounces compared to the 2, but it has a lot better flow rate than this will. This is painfully slow. This can also clog a little bit easier than the original Squeeze. But I've also used filters like the Platypus Quick Draw and the Katadyn Be Free. The original Sawyer Squeeze and the Platypus Quick Draw are probably two of my favorite water filters out there. But again, this one is going to be lighter in weight than both of those, and it's also going to cost a bit less. One other lightweight option that isn't going to provide instant gratification like a water filter will are Aquamira drops. Those you can carry as much weight as you want with them depending on the length of your trip. They do have a longer treatment time before you can drink water, and that'll cost you around $15. And the last piece of gear, and this is for all of you that are using stoves like the BRS or any type of fuel canister stove that's using isobutane propane mixture. I picked this up and I have a video short on this channel going over using it, but this is the flip fuel. And what's great about this, if I have some half-used canisters, I can save money by using this to transfer fuel from one canister to another. And this is something that I keep at home. This is not something that I carry with me on every trip or long hike. But if you find that you have a lot of half-used canisters and you want to save a little bit of money, this is a great way to go about doing that. Total cost for this flip fuel, I think, is around $35, and it's already saved me so much and also helped reduce waste because I'm not having to buy several full canisters. So that's some of the budget-friendly options that I've been really happy with over the years. With all of this, I'm going to leave the last budget-friendly gear option to you. What are some things that you really like using out on the trail that's low in cost, that has held up really well for you, that is nice and light, that suits your personal hiking style. I'd love to hear what things have been working really well for you, so feel free to share those in a comment below. Anyway, I'm going to pack this stuff up and head back home. I'm heading up to New Hampshire's White Mountains to spend some time out there, and then I'm heading over to Vermont to the Green Mountains to do some backpacking out there, and then I'm heading up to Maine to do some backpacking and exploring up there. If you have any questions on any of this gear, leave it in a comment below, or you can contact me at any time at reachyoursummit.net. If you liked this video, hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm always adding new content to it. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I greatly appreciate you all. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and taking care of each other, and that you're also getting out and enjoying the trail. Thank you once again, and until then, I'll catch you in the next one.